Hi guys. Welcome to Top 10 YouTube channel. In this video we will talk about the best US presidents of all time. So make sure to watch full video. Since George Washington was sworn in as the country's first president in 1789, United States presidents have made many integral and difficult decisions to help shape this country. Civil and international wars, economic crises, and deep-rooted bigotry are just a few major installments that our presidents have had to tackle. It's common to debate the efficacy, personalities, and politics of these office holders during their terms, and opinions run far and wide many years later when analyzing past performance. Top 10 U.S. Presidents of all time. 10. Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon Johnson took office upon the assassination of JFK in 1963. He first carried out the legislation that JFK planned to enact when he died, which included an amended civil rights bill and tax cuts. But he was known best for his Great Society program, which he proposed to Congress in 1965. The program encompassed things like educational aid, improvements in medicine, environmental conservation, the addition of Medicare, crime prevention, and equal voting rights. He also helmed the space program that sent astronauts to the moon in 1969. He ranked highest for his congressional relations and pursuit of equal justice, which were wrapped up in his Great Society program and civil rights legislation. 9. Ronald Reagan. This actor-turned-politician brought about economic growth, created jobs, sought to reduce government spending, and bolstered national defense forces, but this led to more government debt. Ronald Reagan's economic policies were known collectively as Reaganomics. He carried out major tax reforms that were believed by many to primarily benefit the wealthy. His ratings in political persuasion, crisis leadership, and increasingly positive views of his economic management earned him ninth on the list. Under Reagan, the U.S. experienced its longest stretch of economic prosperity during a peaceful time, and he made positive steps toward peace as the Cold War approached its end. 8. John F. Kennedy. In office, JFK orchestrated a CIA-centric attempt to overthrow the Cuban government, which ultimately failed. He took military measures to thwart the Cuban Missile Crisis, which may have led to all-out nuclear war, and he set out to establish his New Frontier Plan, which involved tax reform, positive labor and education amendments, and big pushes for civil rights legislation, but it never became fully realized. He gained the highest marks in political persuasion. He fought hard for labor, education, and civil rights. His work in crisis leadership should also be noted, considering he helped decelerate the nuclear arms race. 7. Thomas Jefferson. Before Thomas Jefferson's presidency, political conflict arose between Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, which led to the formation of two parties, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, which Jefferson eventually helmed. As president, Jefferson decreased the national debt, sent naval troops to combat Barbary pirates who interfered with American commerce in the Mediterranean, and secured the Louisiana Territory from Napoleon in 1803, which encompassed 15 current states. Jefferson won a high ranking for his treatment of congressional relations and agenda setting. He was, after all, the main author of the Declaration of Independence, and had to work closely with Congress to gain the approval of the Louisiana Purchase Treaty. 6. Harry S. Truman. Harry Truman found himself in the presidential hot seat upon the death of FDR in 1945. He made the decision to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima at the end of World War II and created programs to expand Social Security, introduce fair employment, and clean up slums, known collectively as the Fair Deal. He called for congressional aid for Turkey and Greece, and the Soviet Union threatened to overtake the two countries, otherwise known as the Truman Doctrine. He also attempted to keep violence to a minimum when North Korea attacked South Korea in 1950. It's no surprise that his marks in crisis leadership and the pursuit of justice for all gleaned him sixth place, considering his approach to domestic and foreign affairs. 5. Dwight D. Eisenhower. As a commanding general in the U.S. Army during World War II, Dwight Eisenhower brought his know-how in the area of foreign relations to the presidency. He took measures to lessen the impact of the Cold War, negotiated with the then Soviet Union in the midst of the nuclear arms race, and facilitated peace at the South Korean border after years of war. Domestically, he continued the New Deal and Fair Deal policies and initiated desegregation in schools and the armed forces. It was his crisis leadership skills that notched him up to 5th place, and he scored highly for moral authority, the basis of his approach to crisis management. 4. Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt entered the presidency due to the assassination of President McKinley. In office he drove the U.S. to take a more active role in world affairs. He facilitated Panama's secession from Colombia in order to start building the Panama Canal, and won the Nobel Peace Prize for arbitrating the Russo-Japanese War. He was known for his big stick approach to foreign policy, in which he would negotiate peacefully, but not hesitate to use military force if need be. He ranked high for his political persuasion. He was known as the leader of the progressive movement, which encompassed his Square Deal program, conservation of natural resources, control of corporations, and consumer protection, as well as his belief that the government should do whatever it takes for the good of the people. 3. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Over the course of his 3 terms in office, FDR is most famous for instituting the New Deal to combat the effects of the Depression, and leading the country through World War II, no easy feats by any means. He famously said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," as part of his fireside chats, radio broadcasts to comfort the public during the Depression. He formed the New Deal coalition, which was instrumental in reorienting American politics toward democratic tenets and establishing American liberalism. FDR takes the 3rd slot because of his political persuasion. He reassured the country during its worst economic crisis, and for international relations, as he guided the country through a major war. And he accomplished all of this while combating polio. 2. George Washington. As first president of the U.S., Washington did a stellar job of helping to lay down the foundation of the country. Not only did he serve as commander-in-chief during the Revolutionary War, he established the cabinet system of governing, although his cabinet members had conflicting views, and communicated well with department leaders. But in the midst of all this, Washington had to tackle some problems. Some of the states hadn't yet joined the Union. The French Revolution sparked political turmoil in which Washington became involved, and America's army was in bad shape. Washington's moral authority, economic management and performance within the context of the times earned him a 2nd-place ranking. He staunchly abided by the laws of the Constitution, successfully thwarted the Whiskey Rebellion, and navigated the presidency when the country was in its infancy. 1. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln successfully led the country through the Civil War, and paved the way for the abolition of slavery by issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. He is perhaps most noted for delivering the Gettysburg Address, which begins with the famous lines, "47 years ago," in which he declares that all men are created equal. He died at the hands of John Wilkes Booth in 1865, who shot him during a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Though Lincoln received high marks in all categories of government, historians put him at number 1 because of his crisis leadership. He heralded America through the deadliest war in its history while keeping the Union intact. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for future updates. Thank you for watching.